Hi everyone. So in this next video I wanted to talk about the question whether it's possible to stop learning. Learning in the sense of acquiring usable information, some kind of knowledge that you understand, because this understanding will imply utility. So not just memorizing for memorization's sake, but actually things that will come in handy. By the way, I don't think I introduced myself in the last video. My name is Chris and I'm from Poland, and I'm about to start medical university online at the moment, so we'll see how that goes. Now, I wanted to explore this question by making use of the Socratic Paradox, which is a quote attributed to the philosopher Socrates, which goes as follows: "I know that I know nothing." So on the face of it, extremely weird, and indeed a paradox, because if you know that you know nothing, well then evidently you do know something. So quite weird. Also, it seems quite pessimistic, but today we'll see that that is not really the case. What Socrates intended when he said this was to acknowledge your own ignorance, not to be so certain of things and only trust yourself. A very humbling quote, but I think it's also quite liberating and motivating. Often when we get to positions of influence or of power, we start to forget more and more about this ignorance that we should always have in the back of our head. Quite a notable example of this I like is the statement of two physicists in the late 19th century who were saying that they think there's nothing left to discover, and then 20th century happened. Okay, so I know that I know nothing. The way I like to think about this, and the way I like to think about the kind of knowledge that a person has, is it's a circle. And within the area of that circle is what a person knows. Now, the circumference of that circle is what we can come to know. Of course, to come to know new things, we have to have some kind of foundation which serves as an entryway to new knowledge, to new areas, to new subjects. A nice way to think about this is a building, a skyscraper with many floors. In order to build the floors higher up, we have to have something below. This is the foundation on which we will build new knowledge. Now we see that as we delve into these new areas and learn new things, our circle representing the things we know will grow, will increase in area. As it does so, the circumference of that circle also increases, which means we now have entryways to more knowledge than we had so previously. So we can come to know more. If we continue and continue and continue doing this, we'll see that, of course, we do learn more and more and more, but with each new step of knowledge acquisition, we actually have access to much more knowledge as well. This is where I think the paradox comes in, because the more you know, the less you actually know. You are more able to imagine new areas which you can enter because of the foundation that you have built. This is where we have to be more aware and more kind of careful of what we do or say, because what we've come to know has allowed us to gauge and imagine that there is just so much more to explore. Possibly it's because of this that when people don't know a lot about a subject, they are very certain of the knowledge they possess. Their circle, representing the knowledge they have, is very small, and so is the circumference, meaning they don't have access to too many areas they can learn. I think these people find themselves on the so-called peak of Mount Stupid in the graph outlining the Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect occurs when we overestimate our knowledge and ability of a certain thing due to the fact that we have actually a very low knowledge and ability in that field. So this graph relates a person's confidence about a given field relative to their experience or their competence within that field. Over time and over work, as they do enter new areas, they suddenly find that there's just so much more to discover. I think this is very exciting. And then they'll fall into the valley of despair, and then slowly climb up the slope of enlightenment. And I think this is where we should all aim to be. This is the area where we're kind of navigating between things that we can rely on, that we have come to know, knowledge that we can use, and also the areas that are opening themselves up to us, which we can enter based on what interests us, what fascinates us. Now, to come back to the question that started it all, is it possible to stop learning? The short answer, I think, is no. Because of the fact that the circle of what we know and what we can come to know can keep growing forever, I don't think there's a limit on what we can learn. This is in fact what we hear every day from people older than us, that they are learning every day and that we should too. Unlike the building analogy that I used earlier, which I think falls apart at this moment because there are physical constraints on how far up you can build. I think our brain is just so amazing that it can facilitate as much as we will give it. The flexibility, the plasticity of what's here is just so fascinating that I don't think we should be worried about not having room for the things that we learn. We can interact with our physical environment, and we can store knowledge and memories about it, and we can then retrieve these things and carry on going and build on top of that. I think it's beautiful. So now it's just a case of preserving where evolution has gotten us. So I'd like to encourage you to have an open mind and to increase your circle of what you know, so that you can come to know more and more and more. So a bit of a shorter video this time, but I would like for it to serve as an introduction to the next video. So I'll see you there.